etc. podcast.
The ETC podcast.
That was
That's
fun.
not even our name. Our name is the
Etc.
podcast.
I never just.
All right, boys. Welcome to the second episode. We have two new people for us. I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Grant.
I'm Carter.
All right. So Grant, big lacrosse guy. Kid we were talking about last time wants to go to Army. And we got Carter. He's our religious expert for today. He's gonna help us talk about creation
he's
and
Amish.
everything like that. He is Amish and Mormon, so
He's a Mormon with a mullet. That's what you can call him.
yeah. I think the first.
BYU game.
So we kind of touched on this last time before we ended, but I don't know, just something that's gonna help us segue into the later parts of the podcast is aliens. So and like what we think about them, because there's definitely like a lot of things that are interesting and as far as just like how, and one thing I want to talk about is ancient Egypt, the pyramids. How were they able to build these pyramids whenever each block it was like 5 tons, and they are saying that they moved them themselves on ramps. So like, what do y'all think of that? Do you think that they did it, or
Yeah, I think they did. I think they were a lot
think they did.
smarter than what we give credit to.
Yeah, for sure.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, so basically, do you think aliens built them? Or do you think that the people in Egypt...
No.
And
yeah, I think
The people in Egypt
I
definitely.
mean, because you guys.
So what do you...
They created machinery to be able to do these things like
And then
that we use.
there's
today.
one,
And
like...
like we're not taking into account how long it
Yeah,
took.
it took like
so it
decades
Yeah.
for some of these things.
But
They were-
but another like counter argument of that is how perfect that they were. I was watching on a Joe Rogan podcast that like if one block was messed up, then the pyramid would be wonky.
yeah.
Another thing is that I mean, this is some people might think this is coincidence or whatever, but the what's it called whenever you have like it's like number the longitude and latitude, what's that called? Coordinates. So the coordinates for the very top of the pyramid is the same number as the speed of light, exactly, like down to the digits.
What's the speed of light? What do you mean the same number?
Like how fast light travels.
In miles per hour?
Like that number. How
And it's like 9, it's like 0. I don't know what it is.
And like with the pyramids, there were like a ton of people working on it.
Yes. When they're
Yeah.
taking up those blocks, they got like 100 people pulling, and they
Yeah.
got like harness systems and stuff like that.
Yeah, the systems that they were using, they weren't carrying them up by hand, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
Yeah, no. So like we think that maybe like Egypt was just smarter than we give them credit for and
Yes.
everything like that. I agree with that. But I saw something interesting, and it was I think it was in the year 1020 or so. And this is just something cool. It doesn't really have anything to do with aliens, but basically, I think it was people in Europe. They observed a new star, and for 25 days, you could see the star in broad daylight.
I saw that.
It was a new star, and nobody had ever seen it before. And also, civilizations in Latin America also observed this star.
Did you send me that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I saw it.
Yeah, and then at night you could see it for like I think it was like a couple of years or something. But basically, they weren't seeing a new star; they were seeing a supernova, and the light took so long to get there that explosion happened. It didn't take that long to happen, but for us, we saw it in a time of days. So like that's just another cool example of like how long it takes for like time to travel and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know. And then so
Why are you staring?
I don't know. Does anybody have any thoughts on that or anything?
It just shows how big space is.
I mean, that's really scary if you think about it, like how big everything is. You gotta think about how fast light travels, and think about how long it'd take for the light to get to Earth. I mean, dude, it's gotta be massive.
Yeah, it is definitely kind of terrifying to think that all that we know is what is the observable universe, and every day we're finding new things,
Yeah.
and it just seems like it's infinite. Like, and we're just sitting here right now in a room on this tiny rock. In the grand scheme of things, it's kind of crazy.
But compared to us, it's not tiny. It's absolutely massive. And then, but our tiny rock is,
Yeah.
compared to the sun is even smaller. And then our sun is smaller than other stars in the galaxy. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's got to be like another argument for aliens. Like, I don't believe in aliens, but I'm thinking like, if you think about infinite universes, infinite galaxies, there's got to be something
Yeah.
out there. Like,
There's no way that
it'd
we
be
are the
insane that
only-
we're the only ones.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and who knows if this is the only universe, right? I mean, there could be many, many universes. Like, what if we are sitting in a grander realm of space, and our universe is just like a galaxy in this grander realm? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, there could be a whole nother universe outside. Because that's something that I always find interesting, is what does our universe sit in? Like, what is outside of our universe? Is it just nothingness forever? You know what I mean? And that's something our brain just can't even comprehend, you know? Is like, there has to be something physical for us. Which is
outside of
another...
our universe.
What'd you say?
You said outside of our universe there has to be something.
Well, I'm saying, like, for our mind to understand it, there has to be something physical.
But there might not be.
Whether it's nothingness or whether it's other galaxies, but there could just be infinite black or
Or
I mean,
God.
Or there
Yeah,
could
yeah.
be absolutely nothing.
but we can't even comprehend that.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Which is kind of another thing that maybe points to a higher power, is that we're sitting in this thing that we can't even imagine beyond a physical element. So it almost feels like there has to be another place maybe, or another thing that we haven't unlocked that accesses the spiritual element of the universe. So, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In terms of like space, it's almost to the point to where like space is so large that like we'll like never. I mean, I'm not saying never because it could happen if there are aliens, but I'm saying like we would never even know. Like for the longest time,
We probably won't know
We
in our
won't know.
lifetime.
because if you think about like the distance that it would, or the speed that you would have to go to travel far enough. I mean, we've already traveled just about as far as we can using satellites and whatnot. I mean, I don't know. You'd never have human interaction with aliens, I don't think, if they did exist.
Yeah, and another thing that is kind of that I saw, I'm pretty sure it was on the Joe Rogan podcast. So somebody was talking to Rogan, and he was like, "Why would aliens have any interest in us?" Right? And Joe Rogan basically said, "Well, we go to faraway, remote places on Earth and study these like species that we didn't know existed, or things like that." And he said, and then the guy was like, "Well, they wouldn't be able to get here anyways." And he said, "Well, hold on, because." And this is something that I think we talked about a little bit last episode, is that technology is increasing exponentially, right? How fast everything's getting, how technologically advanced we're becoming. So it may have only taken, this other civilization could have just developed 300-400 years before us, which in the grand scheme of things is nothing. But in 300-400 years, I mean, think about how
There's gonna be a lot more.
like, I mean, we're probably going to discover things and build things that are... I mean, who knows if we'll even be around. We could just all be in the metaverse. The world could be run by robots. But with how technology is growing, it's almost like 300 years is a lot more time than one would think, right? So that's something cool.
And I mean, in terms of like technological advancement, I mean, it feels like, and I mean, even Elon Musk says that like we've come to a point where like we kind of have a ceiling, and we can see that ceiling. But I bet that that's kind of like an idea that a lot of people have had for a really long time, and eventually something has to change. Like there has to be some breakthrough that changes everything, because
There always is.
like
Like
I
you
mean-
think of the game Pong, the first video game ever to be created. You know how bizarre that was to people that were like alive back then.
And
I don't
that
know. It's
wasn't
bad
even-
to say because it
It's
was
crazy. Like that
recently.
was, how long was that? Like 40 years ago, maybe.
I don't.
And think about how far we've come from then.
Like even 10 years ago, you look at phones.
Yeah.
And they have like the actual keyboards on them. Like it's not
They're like-
digitized, but it's like physical.
like Amish phones.
And that's the thing, is that like if you look at how like if you look at how like technology was 100 years ago. Well, after like so we take like 1900, right? If you go there, you know, I think Tesla had just learned to like kind of harness electricity, if I'm right. And so like that's like the first time that we've even been able to almost get electricity. And then we have 50 years later, now we have TVs, I'm pretty sure they had by then. You know, everybody is driving
Box
cars,
TVs.
everything like that.
What
yeah.
is this? Like mid 19.
1950s.
But
right?
you also have to think like we've got box TVs, and then if that doesn't seem like a lot, but we're sending people to space.
Yeah, right?
So that kind of technology has like.
So it's
off
like
the charts.
we just harnessed electricity, and then 69 years later,
We're already sending
we're on
people
the
to
moon.
space.
I mean, we're on the moon by then, so it's kind of crazy to think about like that. But so that just I think shows like how fast it's grown. I mean, I'm sure, and what you said about like the ceiling, I'm sure that there were times that, Leonardo da Vinci was like, well, there's nothing past this.
He
right?
painted a ceiling.
No, that wasn't him.
That wasn't. It was definitely Leonardo da Vinci that painted the
I'm
ceiling.
sorry, Brad.
It was.
It was Michelangelo.
Oh, it was.
So do you think the ceiling is gonna be like
Just-
technological ceiling, or do you think we're gonna destroy each other before we can get somewhere?
I
Do you
mean,
think that's gonna be a problem?
it could be, but I think for the most part, it's got to be a technology thing. I mean, you only like let's take space travel for example. I mean, how? So first of all, how could you get an object to move fast enough to travel through space at that like speed at like the speed of light? And then on top of that, you have to think, how could you transport humans at that speed without
Killing.
killing
Killing
them?
them.
Yeah.
But then, I mean,
So you've reached a point to where like it's not even technology that's being limited. It's
the human body.
The human body is limited at that point. I mean,
And that's why, I mean, and something cool about that though is, well, now we have a metaverse, right? Now we're gonna have this virtual reality world. I think it was Facebook. They just made haptic gloves, so you'll be able to feel the metaverse now.
Bruh, that's just
You know
that's
what?
so crazy to
That's
me.
what I found crazy. So, Facebook changed their name, right?
To
You
what?
know, it's Meta.
It's meta, yeah.
Meta.
It's
what?
just Meta?
It's
Just
just Meta.
Meta.
Something.
It's meta.
It's just
It's just
Meta.
okay.
Yeah.
Like what? What is that?
Well, it's because they're making the metaverse. So it's like
Well,
they're
I feel like Facebook. You think I don't remember when it was like came out or whatever, but it was the
like-
first social media,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So they broke through social media. Now we have, 10 major social media platforms. Now they're gonna try to break through this metaverse. You can definitely see other social media platforms trying to copy what they do.
Well, yeah, so one of my things is I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 200-300 years we have people on ships, we cryo freeze them, right? So that they don't die. Their minds are just in a virtual reality world, and then eventually once they reach another habitable planet, they wake up. I mean, that doesn't sound that far-fetched to me. Like, obviously
Cryo
right
freezing?
now it might,
It's
but
like
think
where they like
I know
preserve-
what it is, but does it work?
yeah.
Yeah, there's what's his name? Walt Disney.
Uh-huh.
There's a bunch of like big time. What I don't know what we call it.
Executives.
Yeah, people like Walt Disney and like all other kinds.
Important people.
Yeah,
Okay.
So they're
are
Yeah.
cryo freeze so that whenever the reason that they died.
So Walt Disney's alive.
if he's not alive,
technically
but
like
they are preserving his body the way it was left, so that the chip thing, like stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Really?
Whenever
Well-
that is able to like,
So what they said was that they're gonna preserve them until technology is good enough to figure out how to bring them back.
Yeah.
So whether that's with a chip that allows them to, or a virtual reality type thing, wherever they're allowed to feel, but even though they're not in the physical world, they're in a world where they can feel and have
But
emotions
then,
and
like, so by that point, if that could come very soon. Like, what is death anymore? Like, what does death mean?
Yeah, well, that's
You're
what I'm
not
saying.
gonna
That's where
die.
religion comes into play.
yeah. So that's wherever it's almost like if you're faced with a choice, right, and you're like, you can live forever, and we'll always find a way to live, right? Once the Earth is uninhabitable, technology will be good enough to go to another planet. We'll always find a way to live, but you'll never die. like it's almost like, what do you even want at that point? Because it's like,
You're literally just chasing.
You can go take this risk. It would be seen as a risk.
I mean,
I'm gonna die and go to this place where I have no idea what's gonna happen, or I could stay here and live forever.
yeah,
in
until-
a world that you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're familiar with.
Yeah.
it's definitely terrifying. I mean, just to think about like being faced with that decision, I just wouldn't even know what to do.
And I mean, on the brain chip thing, I mean, that even goes back to the technology with what Elon Musk was talking about with the gap or whatever, because he's like, we hit a gap, and then basically what they were asking him was, does he think that there could be a chip or some type of thing that could be put in the human brain to like maximize brain function? Because I don't remember the exact statistics, but it's almost
10%
like,
or something.
yeah, it's a very
We only
small,
use 10% of our
a
brain.
very small amount of your brain is
Yeah.
being used.
So,
So if you could maximize brain capacity,
Yeah.
what does that mean for the cap?
Yeah.
Is there a cap at all?
That expands
So I
it.
wonder if that is what's going to break through, right? So once we get our brain, once we can use more of our brain, I wonder if that's going to be like, if somebody's going to get like 80% of the brain, you're like, why haven't we thought about this? Revolutionizes the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe that's something that could happen. And that's like what Elon Musk is doing kind of right now with the Neuralink. They're about to start human testing on the Neuralink.
They test
And-
on robots, right?
What'd you say?
There's like some robots that they're testing, right?
They tested chimps, and something interesting about this is they taught they had a chimp, right, and he was playing Pong because they've now been able to teach chimps how to play video games, right? So he's playing Pong, right?
That's
And
scary.
he's
Some
and
Planet of the Apes. Like
he's able to play. He understands what's happening, right? And he has the chip in him. They take away his controller. Now he's playing with his mind, and it works.
Yeah, I know.
The chimp is playing without a controller with his mind, and it's working because he has the Neuralink in his head.
That thing.
At that point, are you even human though? Like,
That's another. So like,
It's like-
are we going towards like a dehumanization of our species?
are you becoming
at that
AI?
point,
Like, is
you
it all
become-
just fake?
You become artificial at that point.
And that's why it almost seems like, there's always like a new like we had the dinosaurs, and then we've had kind of like, I think there was another thing, I don't remember who it was, and then there's been like us. So is the next group of people or the next species to come like AI, or because it's almost like, y'all know like Homo sapiens, right?
Yeah.
Or Neanderthals, right?
Yeah.
They were like a group of humans that we beat out. So like they were
Beat
a
them.
whole species, but then they got beat out by a more intelligent species.
I feel like this is all like that could be put into the like evolution.
Yeah.
So like animals are here first, and then we evolved, and now whatever's next could have evolved from humans, whether it become like from technological stuff,
Yeah.
or
But-
we could only do it to ourselves.
So you think technology is part of evolution?
I think it really could be.
Yeah.
But why is there no
Because
one,
that's
like,
what's advancing right now is technological advancement.
Well, the thing about that is that evolution on a biological scale takes millions of years.
Yeah.
If we wanted
that's-
if we wanted to learn to breathe underwater, it would take millions of years of us dying in water. But technology
I'll take one.
could
You can
provide
do
us
it.
in 100 years. We could learn how to breathe underwater without an oxygen tank.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's why I think the evolution thing is really weird in a lot of ways, is because, like, where does that come from? Right? So, like, you have these animals. I don't know exactly what animals. I mean, go with monkeys or whatever.
Yeah.
At what point do monkeys start getting taller and get hands with opposable thumbs and start losing hair? And, like, what starts that? Like, obviously, like, yeah, you want to be able to grab things. Yeah, you want to be able to run faster. Yeah, you want to be able to do
I
whatever.
feel like monkeys grab things and run faster.
Yeah, it's
than
our,
we do.
and that's the
So
thing
are
is-
we I
It's
mean,
almost
we're
like we
obviously
went-
smarter
we
than
went-
It's
them.
almost like we went down on a
With,
physical level.
Like, yeah, because, so, like, your tailbone, well, we don't need a tail. Why would we have...
yeah,
And that's what that comes from. Like,
yeah. Is that is
We don't
well,
have
that's where it comes
we
from.
don't have a tail anymore, but the root.
Why is there why is there nothing in between us though? Why is there not a half monkey, half human?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Carter, but that's the closest thing we got.
Yeah, it's like there's I don't know. It's just hard to picture a like transformation period whenever you have. I mean, obviously we're similar in a lot of ways, but I don't know.
And-
it just
but-
seems crazy because like what starts that? Like you live and you die. How do you control like in your body? How do you control like?
And why not any other animals? Like, why was it?
And why only one?
Well,
Why
dolphins
is-
and killer whales are similar. They have their tails like this. They go like this. They have a fin.
So
They have a blowhole.
animals, all other animals could have evolved to something another animal. So like the extinct ones
Yeah.
are now living through something else now. So like a big dinosaur is now an alligator, and that was that evolution.
Hmm.
But we, I guess, don't view ourselves as that other animal.
But the thing about that is that there were alligators during the time of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Like it was a s- it was
It was a
different
bigger- it was-
species.
It's massive.
Yeah, it was a lot larger.
But so
that is probably like they, like over time they.
well, and that's the thing is that if you look back like 15 million years ago, almost everything was bigger. Like they had
Yeah.
60-foot long snakes.
Yeah.
Like everything like that. So that's kind of something weird to think about. But what's interesting is that right now we have the biggest animal that's ever lived in the blue whale.
Mm.
It's the largest animal that's ever lived.
Really?
But I don't know. I think it's always lived, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, because
So
like,
why
and
is-
you
How do you
look at
kill
the
that?
lifespan?
What-
of it.
Why did that animal not?
Yeah, so like did all.
Evolution.
So why
animals-
did- why
did whales not
So
get so
whenever dinosaurs and
Speaking
stuff
of
went
it.
extinct from, it was like the asteroid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where God
What?
comes in. Like, I mean, if there's only one, are we the best animal? Are we like the only chance that we evolved, or did God make us this way? Are we supposed to be like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I was thinking just now. It's like, did we all start as one thing? Like, you have humans, you have birds, you have
yeah.
fish, you have whatever.
Like
And we
one
all-
And you all started
microorganism.
as one organism, and then one evolved this way, one evolved this way, and one evolved this way. And now you have 4 animals that have no similarities. Like,
Well, and that's the thing is that, like, why did another animal not just develop the same as us? Because it's not, because we are not in the best shape for being physical at all. I mean, we're like,
No.
in the grand scheme of things, we're weak, we break easily, like, everything like that. So why did another animal not develop to learn language and communicate and
But they-
learn how to
But
fly?
They do
do we
communicate
know?
to an extent.
Like, do we know that they don't have?
Dolphins
That's
definitely
the
do.
thing.
I mean, yeah, but it's also like, they communicate, but it's mostly like,
It's not. Yeah. It's
But
not.
they're
like,
not-
what are we
building
eating? What are we eating? When
Yeah.
we replicate, when we do
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, it's not like you
Like,
have
we're
dolphins
that
down
much
in the
more
ocean
advanced.
building Atlantis.
Yeah,
I mean,
But the
it's
thing,
like,
Yeah.
so like,
Yeah.
we all do the same thing. Like
You just speaking, bro.
they.
We all have do the same thing. How does that make sense?
Say a words, bro.
I'm saying like this was before he said. Like
now you messed him up. Now you lost his
All right,
train
I'm
of thought.
sorry.
You-
Will. I'm just gonna let you talk, bro.
we all, so like animals, we all live with each other. We live with our moms. All animals do that too, and then they'll eat. Like it's like the same,
Concept.
but ours is much more advanced.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. Like, us and a lion cub are all gonna live with our moms. Our
Yeah.
moms are gonna help us live and feed us until we get old enough to where we're independent.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean to where it's almost like all animals do have the same cycle, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think God and evolution are completely separate?
No.
God.
It has to start somewhere though, and that's
Yeah,
exactly,
that's-
like,
that's the
that's
thing.
where.
That's where I'm at. I mean, it's like, yeah, they keep talking about like bacteria evolved into like smaller
Fish.
organisms, and then those smaller
Yeah.
organisms evolved into fish, and then the fish decided that they wanted to go on land, tried to go on land, couldn't, went back, then became a hybrid, like an amphibian, went back and forth, and then finally they got on land and they were like, there's so much food and everything here, now you can do that. But it doesn't make sense to me for there to be that big of a change. I feel like there almost has to be something that started that, and it's not just...
But there's still fish.
But what if?
Yeah, so
one-
like what made the species of fish that was
I'm
like,
saying, like,
I'm
what-
tired of being wet? Like, why did
Yeah.
he go to land?
What if
God.
the thing is, what if there was one creature that started off, and these creatures went all over the world to all different, like, one went to the ocean, one went to a swamp.
Where do
one
they
lives-
start though? They started on land, or they just
You talking about aliens?
I'm just saying, like, this, like, I don't know where they start, but when they start, they all go to different places, and then that's where the evolution starts for each animal.
I understand what he's saying. So like, well, I think what he's trying to say is like, whenever the world, like our planet, got an ecosystem, right? After
Yeah.
it was like it cooled down a little bit, different animals
They didn't all go
started in a different place.
Yeah.
It
And so
wasn't-
then it's not necessarily those animals changing, like, I don't want to be in water anymore, but they were always there. And there were other animals in different ecosystems everywhere. And then that's where
But
they
then,
just started to branch off.
where do amphibians come in to where they're land and sea creatures? And
Okay.
they choose what they want
Yeah,
to do.
the only problem I have with Will's argument is that there was a point wherever the world was just an ocean.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have things that are microorganisms that feed off of phytoplankton to be able to survive. And you're not going to have an animal that's just going to spawn in the middle of a desert and
Yeah.
decide. Or it wouldn't even be an animal if we're talking about like the process of evolution. It would just have to be a small
Organism.
piece of bacteria, and it's just like laying on the ground somewhere, and it's not going to be able to feed or...
And that process would take an extremely long time.
Okay, let's just say God is real, right? And no,
He's a religious. Nah, don't laugh at it, bro. Go ahead, go with it. Just go with it.
Go ahead.
Nobody said he wasn't.
No, but he's saying-
what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
when God creates the earth, right?
Yeah.
The story is like 7 days, right?
Yeah.
But it's God's time. It's heaven's time. It's not how we see time on earth. So what I'm thinking is,
Oh.
first day, God creates like kind of like the ocean, the world gathers the matter. That's kind of like the Big Bang through the world to make it an ocean, and then He starts making land when land appears, and this is like however long the time we think it is, but it's all God, and He's working through evolution. And then the animals came first, obviously, so they're evolving, and then after all that stuff, He makes man, right?
Okay, so that kind of makes sense because because I know whenever I used to like go to church a lot, I would always have a problem with like, okay, but if Adam and Eve were on the earth at the same time as dinosaurs, then like that don't make no sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe what Carter's saying, like one day for God could be millions of years for
Yeah,
us.
correct.
So maybe God created dinosaurs, and then He created everything else, and then what we think as the sixth day, right? He created man.
Yeah.
What we think as the sixth day was really like millions and millions of years later He put man on earth. So yeah, that's actually kind of something cool to think about, is that God's time definitely works different than ours.
Yeah. And so then, when you're saying that, and you're saying the creation, what was I gonna say? It's all natural. Like, God, it wouldn't make sense for God to just make the earth just like pop up exactly like present day, obviously, because we've changed so much even since Adam and Eve were created,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
technology and stuff.
And I mean, we'd be so lost. And I mean, especially if you go back to Adam and Eve and you think about how she deliberately disobeyed God. You think about, you throw humans like that who have no moral code because it's just them.
Mhm.
And then you throw them in a world with as much technology and all this crazy stuff that we have today. I don't know. I think it'd be hard for a population to survive like that because probably be a lot of conflict.
Yeah. For sure. And one thing, I'm sorry, Carter, but one thing that I was talking to Carter about a couple days ago was Carter told me, he said, God's a scientist. God made science, right? So if we think about it like that, then maybe like all of these people that are like, I'm a scientist, I can't believe in God. It's like, well, God made the science that you study, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of things that, and you know, sometimes I think about it too, like, why did God make everything so complex? You know what I mean? Like, why didn't he just put stuff there? Why did there have to be atoms that made it up? But if you think about it, maybe God was just bored and he wanted to have more fun.
Definitely. I agree, but I feel like he did that way.
There's more.
'Cause you need a
room-
gradual-
There's more room for error.
Well, I was gonna say, so because his main thing is about faith, right? You have faith in him, you go to heaven.
Mhm.
So, if he made everything plain and simple, and there is a reason behind his madness, then we want to have faith. We'd just be
Too
like,
easy.
oh, he's real. Okay.
That's true, yeah.
But when he makes a earth that completely works on its own, and there's laws of nature, there's laws of science, and things
You'll-
work
you'll
in an
question
orderly.
if
You
it
have to
goes-
decide for yourself. You
Yeah.
have to figure it out
That's
on your
true.
own.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never even thought about it that way, like as far as God made everything have scientific rules and have laws of nature so that we have to decide. So that it's not just like, because, you know, I'm often like, you know, I wish that God could just be there and just always be there and be like, yo, I'm God, but maybe that wouldn't prove to him that you had faith if you could see.
It just proves to
So,
him
like,
that
Who has the first idea, like, of God?
Well, Adam and Eve.
Yeah, so then they would have had to.
But then there's the fall. So you want to talk about the fall real quick?
Go ahead,
So
talk about
when
the
when
not-
Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, right? Everything was perfect. They weren't ashamed of anything. They were naked. They didn't know anything, and they knew God, and they could talk with God to an extent. They didn't know everything about heaven, but they could talk to God and stuff. But they were actually given 2 commandments. They were commanded not to eat the fruit, right? Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But there was also a commandment for them to have children and like multiply and replenish the earth. But they couldn't do that in the Garden of Eden. So they had to fall. It's part of God's plan for them to take the fruit and fall down to earth. And then like that's when
So he planned for them to disobey him.
yes.
Hmm.
That's what I think.
I mean, yeah, it
Exactly.
have to be like that.
I mean, because God is way more powerful than Satan, right?
Yes.
So,
Satan's like he was an angel, right?
yeah, he was like
Yeah,
an
he
angel.
was.
He's
Is
like
that-
basically any one of us. He just in the
Yeah, you
Premortal
talked about
life.
this.
so there's premortal life, then there's earth, then there's eternity, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So in the premortal life, there was a huge battle in heaven, a huge argument. There was God, and he knew that. So he was like, "We're gonna make an earth, right? And you're gonna live on earth, and then you're gonna come back." Then there was Satan's plan and Jesus' plan. Jesus' plan is that we have agency, so we can choose what we want, we can choose what to do, and we don't just know God. And Satan's plan was to force it on us, to force us to be perfect, and you have no choice, but then you're perfect, and then you can live with God. But Jesus' plan obviously works, and it's what we're going with because we don't know everything. We don't know. We have to choose from right and wrong. We have to make our own decisions. And so Satan was cast out, and now he can't have a body. So his whole purpose is to make people miserable like him, and because he's jealous of us having bodies,
Mm.
and he's jealous of our experience on earth.
Well, yeah, so, like, that's very interesting, like, as far as, like, Satan is just, like, kind of like he's not very powerful, he's just, his whole job is to make life worse, right? So, because he's not very powerful, you almost know that God had to have saw that Adam and Eve were getting persuaded. Like, God's watching the snake
Yeah,
in the
But
garden.
he
He's like,
wants that.
there he
I'm sure
goes.
he wants that.
And, like, but I'm sure, I mean, that was all part of his plan all along.
They have
It was-
agency. If
Yeah.
they could have, it had to happen sometime, because I mean, obviously, that's not part of the plan to just live in basically heaven.
Well, that and people are people. Like,
We're not perfect, yeah.
yeah, you'll have. Yeah, once again, it's like you have people. You don't have a bunch of gods walking the planet that know what to do and they know everything that's right. You have people that go through experiences, make mistakes, grow from their mistakes, and become better people. Some of them do, some of them don't. But that's where you almost feel like, yeah, they had to fail to set up everybody else to be able to be like, oh, okay, so this is why whenever God tells you to do something, you don't defy God because you'll be punished.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, another interesting thing is the flood. Do you guys know about that?
This is very
So-
interesting.
What?
Adam and Eve, right? They're on Earth. They have a bunch of kids and stuff, and then then they're like filling up the Earth with people,
Breeders.
and basically, yeah. And so then there's a good time. I don't know exactly how much, and then there's Noah, right?
Yeah.
So Noah, like the people are becoming like they're sinning a lot and they're like doing bad stuff, and so God is like, we're gonna bring a flood, right, and like kind of cleanse the earth.
Noah's Ark.
And then Noah builds the ark. He takes a couple families with him, and then all the animals and stuff.
So do you believe that he took two of every animal?
I do.
That's
Well,
just hard for me
It
to
might be
believe.
like
And I mean, I think that's gonna have to go back into like the evolution thing, to where it's like,
What are
how
what
many
was it?
maybe
how
that
many
was
animals
there.
how many animals would he have to take? Because like, how many animals do
yeah,
you
'cause
have
they
at
can
that
evolve.
point? If they
Yeah.
if they evolved, he could have only had to take
5 animals.
Or
6, 'cause
maybe
it's
it
2
was
of
like
each. But
Well, I'm saying like five
Species.
sets. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
and
and-
then they evolved.
But
to that.
let Carter finish
But
what he was
another
talking
crazy
about.
thing is that with the flood, the earth changed.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, like Pangea and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the flood. Maybe the flood changes and then
You think it moved like rock and stuff?
yes. I mean, the whole world changed and
But
like,
how does
it's
So
so
there's
powerful.
There's a mountain range in, I think it's in the Middle East somewhere, and it has like in the middle of it, there's just like in the middle of like a peak of a mountain, it's like flattened, and there's a shape of like, it looks like a boat, and the dimensions are exactly the dimensions of Noah's Ark.
seen that.
So have they found Noah's Ark, right? Or I swear that I saw something where
That's
found
probably
it in the
what's the same
sea.
thing.
But I
They
feel
don't
like
have like a
like
boat.
not
Yeah.
the
It was made of wood, so it's
yeah.
not.
Yeah, I know, but like they found it.
You're probably
like-
talking about what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, go
and
ahead.
that goes back to like there was land whenever that happened.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Earth was already made.
So like everything wasn't underwater.
No,
Not-
it was.
It was
Under,
about
that's like part of the creation was like underwater, but then the flood kind of changed the shape of the earth. And another thing
and
is-
that created like mountains and stuff like that.
Yeah, or different mountains.
Yeah.
Because there's like underwater trenches and mountains.
He thinks
Yeah,
thinks
yeah.
that Pangea.
What is that?
That's
That's
whenever
when-
all the continents were together. Because
Oh,
there's a
yeah,
theory.
yeah,
Talking about Pangea.
I do know. Okay, yeah.
He thinks that the Great Flood, with like Noah's Ark and everything, separated Pangea up.
Yeah. And then another cool thing is before the flood, people lived to like 900.
yeah.
Like
yeah,
Adam,
yeah.
he's like 900, and then all his sons and stuff. Like I think the oldest person was like 987 or something like that. Nobody lived to 1,000, but they were like
Why?
up there.
How did they know that?
But yeah, so
Tom
I
Brady's
don't,
little
I was wondering, do you have an answer for that as far as why we don't live that long anymore?
So, one solution is that we're not as righteous as a people, and we don't like. Because think about it, if everybody came from 2 people, that's gonna take a long, long time to like make a bunch of kids and stuff,
Mhm.
right? And then maybe they're not righteous, so they like nowadays we're not as righteous, so maybe we don't live as long. But there's another theory that after the flood, the earth changed, and then like maybe the atmosphere is different, or maybe like stuff like that is different, so we just live shorter.
Yeah, so like that's another thing is like, well, like what you're talking about is like if the Earth's changed, because basically whenever we die of like natural causes, it's just our body getting too old and our cells not
Yeah.
dividing fast enough and everything like that. So maybe before the flood, the world was in an environment to where it slowed aging,
Yeah.
and like cells didn't stop dividing as fast, or oxygen was more plentiful, or anything like that. So
Yeah, I had a question I was gonna bring up earlier whenever we were talking about like Adam and Eve and like the mistakes that they made. It's like, at what point? So we all have, like, as people have a moral code, right? So like we have a general idea of what we know is what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
But how do you get to this point? Like, and that's also probably a testament to like why Adam and Eve were so, and all the people that were on Earth before, like Noah's Ark and everything, being so bad was because they didn't really have that moral compass that we have today of watching humans grow and communicate and talking to other people and figuring out what's hurtful, like what things are just like unacceptable, and like
So you're saying
taking another human's life or anything like that to the point to where like we are today,
they
where
We kind of know.
set the foundation.
So you're talking
for
about
us.
like how
we're almost hyper morally correct to where we can give people things that they probably don't deserve.
Right.
So that's where society comes in. Society as a whole has evolved, obviously, right? Because back in the day, I mean, it's pretty like simple. It's just like you live in a little village, and like
You farm and you.
yeah, you're just nice to everybody, and everybody knows what's going on. But then, when more and more people are there, you have to have society. You have to have like rules set. You have to have government basically, or something to keep order. And then over time, we're so used to that that's just what we know. But if you think about it, what do you think would happen if it's kind of like the 100? Like, what would happen if you were just on your own and you just had to figure it out? What would you do? Like, do you think you could get back to society? Do you think you
Oh
could?
yeah, we were talking
Keep
about
order.
At the
that.
field.
Like as far as like how long it would take. I think it was on the podcast. If you took 100,
It wasn't on
or it wasn't on the podcast.
It was whenever we went to the field with him and RJ, and then we went to.
Yeah.
Oh, was that it? Oh yeah. So we were talking about that. It was if there was 100 people, right, that lived through some event, and let's just say 30 of them were gifted people, right, like engineers, scientists, doctors, right. 30 of them were those kind of people. How long would it take to get back to this society? So do y'all think that? So you think it would take a lot? I think it would take a lot less time, obviously, than it took the whole evolution. But like, how long do y'all think it would take? Do y'all think it would take like that, like 100,000 years or thousands of years, or how long do y'all
I
think it
think
would take?
a lot of why it took longer like before is because
because we didn't understand.
yeah, we didn't understand it. Now, just say electricity for example. We didn't know
Yeah.
how to harness it. We didn't know any of that. So it took a good while to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Now we know how to do that. We know how to harness energy, so we can automatically just boom harness energy, and that's a huge step for mankind again.
Mm-hmm.
It's that exponential technology that we were talking about earlier. Like back in the day, it's farming. Oh, a plow, that's revolutionary. Oh, a wheel. Like, but
Yeah.
knowing everything that you know, it'll be much faster. Basically the hardest part is just building all the stuff yourself
Yeah.
and building it up.
Especially what it comes down to is like, go back to the electricity thing. Humans went and we so it took us hundreds of thousands of years to be able to harness electricity. That is now something that you learn in 3rd grade with circuits.
Yeah.
Like, every human being goes through school and should know that small sliver of information.
I mean, not
That
every-
took-
like in the United States.
Well, yeah, at least in the United States. But
But
I'm
that's yeah. Okay, go ahead. Wait, that's
Keep going.
if
I'm
the
done.
doctors are from, say, like I don't know, a huge. It's like a country that's in really bad poverty right now.
Haiti.
Hey, so
Yeah.
Haiti. So
Cox.
to say
Shut up, Mr. Cox.
so say we had scientists in Haiti. They don't know as much as scientists here, right? So how long is it going to take for the scientists here to teach them, and also communication borders, right? You're going to have to learn Haitian.
Yeah.
I think it's Spanish.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
Don't they speak English in Haiti?
I actually have no clue, to be honest. But all I'm saying is communication borders.
Yeah.
maybe
If-
Haiti, but
One, and then two, they don't understand. They're like electricity. What is that? So
Yeah.
The biggest problem is that nowadays in society, it's like that we're so different than some people, and like honestly, people think that we're better than others, right? And so then you're not, or they're just like they're not caring as much, except for like themselves. They want to make themselves better, so people aren't gonna. Oh, let's go to Haiti. Let's give them everything we can
all
and try to
their
make it
information.
like us. We're not gonna do that. is not gonna. It's not. There's no benefit for us, so we don't see the benefit, so we're not gonna do it.
Like and subscribe for more videos.